It is 2 a.m. You are not working. You are not reading anything important. You are not being productive. You are just awake again. And somewhere in the back of your mind, a voice you've been ignoring all day gets just a little bit louder. Why can't I just stop? You have made this deal with yourself 100 times. Tomorrow I sleep early. You said that yesterday. You said it last week, last month. You've been saying it for years. And every night, something pulls you back. Something that feels almost like hunger. Not for food, not for entertainment, for something you cannot name. I used to think people who stay up late were just night owls, a personality type, maybe a little more creative, maybe a little more interesting. Then I went deep into the psychology behind it. Jung, Adler, modern sleep science. And what I found changed everything I thought I understood about myself. Because staying up late is not a habit. It is not a personality trait. It is not even a sleep problem. It is a wound. It has a shape. And tonight, I'm going to show you exactly what yours looks like. There are 4 types of people who cannot sleep at night. Each one is running from something different. Each one is carrying something they have never named. And by the end of this video, you will not just know which type you are, you will understand why you became this way, where it started, and what it is actually costing you. Stay with me, because the type you least expect is probably the one that will hit the hardest. Before I introduce the 4 types, I need you to do something. Think about the last time you stayed up late. Not because you had a deadline, not because something was happening, but because you simply chose not to stop. Something inside you refused to shut down. The world went dark. The people around you went to sleep, and you stayed. Hold that feeling, not the activity you were doing, not what was on your screen, the feeling underneath it, a kind of quiet resistance, a low hum of something unfinished. Almost like if you went to sleep, you would miss something, or maybe face something. That feeling is a clue, and it is different for every person. Carl Jung spent his entire career studying the parts of ourselves we hide. He called it the shadow, not your darkness, not your evil side, but the parts of you that you disconnected from, because life taught you they were inconvenient, too much, too dangerous, too vulnerable. And the shadow speaks loudest at night, when the noise stops, when the distractions are gone, when the mask you wear all day gets heavy and wants to come off. Most people respond to that moment by staying awake, not because they love the night, because they are not ready for what the quiet might say. Let me show you what I mean. Type 1, the wanderer. Let me ask you something that might feel strange. Do you feel guilty when you go to bed on time? Like the night owed you something and you left early. Like you abandoned a version of yourself that only comes alive after midnight. If yes, you might be a wanderer. The wanderer does not stay up because they cannot sleep. Their body is tired. Their eyes are heavy. They know they have to be up in 5 hours. And they stay up anyway. Not because of willpower. Not because of discipline. Because going to sleep feels like surrender. From the outside, this looks like freedom. The wanderer talks about their late nights the way other people talk about vacations. I work better at night. I think more clearly when the world is quiet. Morning is too loud, too fast, too demanding. And all of that might be true, but it is not the whole truth. Here is what the wanderer never says out loud, what they may have never even said to themselves. I do not know who I am when I stop moving. Carl Jung wrote about what he called a persona, the mask we wear for the world. The version of ourselves that is productive, capable, together. And for the wanderer, that persona is built on activity, on always doing something, on forward motion. So when the activity stops, when there is no task, no scroll, no episode, no chat, the persona has nothing to stand on. And underneath, it is a question they've been avoiding since childhood. Am I enough? If I am not doing anything? Think about a child who learned, in whatever way life teaches these lessons, that their value was tied to their usefulness. Maybe it was a house where rest was called laziness. Maybe it was a parent who was only warm when you were performing. Maybe it was a classroom, a sport, a system that rewarded doing and ignored being. That child learned something very early and very deeply. Stillness is a threat. If I stop, something might be taken from me. So they keep going. They fill every hour. They are the last one awake. and the first one to look busy. And they grow up, and now they are an adult. And the pattern is so old it feels like personality. It feels like preference. But it is not preference. It is armor. And here's the twist that makes the wanderer uncomfortable. The late nights they think are freedom are actually the cage. The wanderer believes they are claiming the night, owning it, choosing it. But what if the night is the only place they can stop performing? What if they stay up not to explore, but to hide? What if every hour they spend awake after midnight is another hour they are avoiding the one place they have never been willing to go? Inside, still, alone with the question. The shadow of the wanderer is this: you are not a night person. You are a person who is afraid of what happens when the performance ends. And the performance ends when you sleep. The way forward for the wanderer is not a better bedtime. It is learning what it feels like to exist without producing, to be worth something in the quiet, to sit for 5 minutes without reaching for a screen and discover you are still there and you are still enough. That is the hardest thing a wanderer can do. It is also the most important. Type 2, the processor. The processor looks completely different from the outside. They are not restless. They are not watching videos at 1 a.m. They are lying in bed, eyes closed, completely still, and absolutely, totally unable to stop. You know this experience. You close your eyes and the thoughts begin. Not important thoughts. Not inspired thoughts. Not even interesting thoughts. Just thoughts. The email you forgot to send. That thing you said in a meeting 3 weeks ago that landed wrong. The plan for tomorrow. The mistake from last year. The conversation that keeps replaying. But what did they really mean by that? Were they annoyed? Should you have responded differently? And then the bigger ones. Am I doing enough? Am I on the right path? Is this the life I was supposed to be living? It never stops. And the worst part, the part that makes this wound so hard to see, is that it feels like thinking. It feels smart. It feels productive. It feels like you're the kind of person who takes things seriously. But here's what Jung would say. This is not intelligence. This is anxiety, wearing a very convincing costume. And the costume is convincing because the processor genuinely believes they are solving something. They are not. They are circling, like a plane that has been in the air for 8 hours and cannot find a runway. It has fuel. It has speed. It has a flight path. But it cannot come down, because coming down means landing. And landing means stopping. And stopping means being present. And being present means feeling, and the processor does not want to feel. The wound of the processor goes back to a specific kind of childhood, not necessarily a painful one, not obviously traumatic, but unpredictable. Think about growing up in a house where the mood could shift without warning, where everything was fine until it suddenly was not, where you never quite knew what version of the day you were going to wake up into. That child learned something very specific and very early. If I can understand everything, I can predict everything. If I can predict everything, I can prevent anything from hurting me. So they think. They think about every possible scenario. They think about what could go wrong, what could go wrong, what might go wrong tomorrow. They build a fortress out of analysis. And inside that fortress they feel not happy, but safe. Except they are not safe. They are exhausted, and they cannot sleep. And the fortress that was supposed to protect them is the thing keeping them awake at 3 a.m. running loops that lead nowhere. The processor thinks this is depth. They were there overthinking like a badge. I just have a complex mind. I just care more than most people. Not everyone is capable of this level of thought. But here's the question that breaks that story open. If your thinking is so powerful, why haven't you solved it yet? You've been thinking about these same things for months, years. The same fears, the same uncertainties, the same questions. And thinking harder has not answered them, because they were never questions that thinking could answer. Some things are not problems to be solved. They are feelings to be felt. The child who built the fortress out of analysis did it because feeling was dangerous. Because in an unpredictable house, emotions made things worse. If you cried, escalated. If you showed fear, it was used against you. So you went into your head, and you stayed there. And now you are an adult, and your head is still running. Not because you are powerful, but because that child is still scared. And thinking is the only language they learned to speak when they were afraid. The shadow of the processor is this. Your mind is not protecting you anymore. It is keeping you in a prison that looks like a library. The way out is not better thinking. It is not a journal. It is not a framework. It is the thing the processor fears most. Feeling something all the way through without trying to understand it, not analyzing the feeling, not explaining it, not giving it a name or a cause or a solution, just letting it exist. That is terrifying for a processor because it means letting go of control. But control was never the answer. It was just the coping mechanism of a child who needed one. Type 3, the unseen. This is the type most people do not want to admit to, not because it is shameful, but because admitting it means acknowledging something painful that for most of your life you have not felt real. The unseen does not stay up for themselves. They stay up because the night is the only time of day lets go of them. During the day, they function. They show up. They say the right things. They do their work. From the outside, they look fine, present, engaged, maybe even happy. But there's a version of them that nobody at work sees. Nobody at home sees. A version with opinions that are too strong for the room. Feelings that go too deep to explain in a 5-minute conversation. A whole interior life, rich and strange and real, that they have learned over years to keep behind a locked door. Because the last time they showed it, something went wrong. Maybe they were told they were too sensitive, too intense, too much, too strange. Maybe nobody said anything. Maybe they were just ignored. And being ignored when you're trying to be real is its own kind of wound. So the unseen learn to adapt, to shrink, to give people the version of themselves that fits the room, fits the moment, fits the expectation. They became very good at being present without being visible, at participating without being truly seen. And then night comes. The house goes dark. The people who needed things from them all day finally go to sleep. The performance is over. And something shifts. For the first time in 16 hours, they breathe, not the performance of breathing. Real breathing. They make tea. They sit with their thoughts. They watch something that genuinely interests them, not something they agreed to watch with someone else. They write or draw or just exist without managing anyone's reaction to their existence. The night becomes their country. The dark becomes the only mirror that shows them their real face. And for a few quiet hours, they are real, not the adapted version, not the edited version, the version they have been protecting all day. I want you to feel how painful that actually is. Not the night part, the day part. The fact that an entire human being, with a full life inside them, spends most of their waking hours making themselves smaller so they can fit. The wound of the unseen is not rejection. It is self-abandonment. Somewhere along the way, they stopped believing the world had room for the real them, and they stopped showing it, not because the world actually rejected it, but because they pre-rejected it themselves, to protect themselves from a hurt that might not have even been coming. Here's the twist that the unseen needs to hear. The night is not your freedom. The night is confirming the story. Every late night spent alone in the dark is your nervous system whispering. You see, this is the only place you belong. In the quiet, when no one is watching, when no one can judge. And that whisper, however gentle, is a lie. It is a story a hurt child told themselves to survive. And you are not a child anymore. And the world is not the room where you first learned to disappear. The shadow of the unseen is this. You are not finding yourself in the night. You are rehearsing your invisibility. The night will always welcome you. But the night will never give you what you actually want. What you want is to be seen. Fully, by day, by people who matter. And that requires the one thing that feels most dangerous to the unseen. Showing up as yourself before midnight, not performing. Not adapting, not shrinking, just being the real version. In the light, that is terrifying. It is also the only way home. Type 4, the rebel. The rebel is the easiest type to spot from the outside, and the hardest to reach on the inside. They are proud of their late nights. They wear their chaotic sleep schedule the way other people wear medals. I don't do mornings. My brain doesn't turn on until noon. Sleep schedules are for people who let the system control them. The rebel is not just staying up late. They are making a statement, a declaration of independence from the world and its expectations. And there is something genuinely true about that impulse, the refusal to let the world dictate how you live. But there is also something deeply hidden underneath it. Watch the rebel closely. Not what they say, what they do. They push through exhaustion not like someone who loves being awake, but like someone who is fighting. Like sleep is the enemy. Like their body is something to be defeated. Like rest is a weakness they cannot afford. And that, right there, is the tell. The rebel is not fighting the world. The rebel is fighting themselves. Think about a child who grew up in a house where rest was called laziness, where stopping meant you were not trying hard enough, where asking for help was weakness, where taking care of yourself was, in some subtle or not so subtle way, treated as selfish. That child learned something that gets written into their bones. My body is not my friend. My needs are inconvenient. Rest is something I have to earn. So they push. They override. They go past exhaustion and call it strength. They treat sleep deprivation like a character trait and wonder why they feel so depleted, so irritable, so hollow underneath the defiance. And every time they stay up past the point of reason, past the point of any possible productivity, past the point of enjoyment even, they are not choosing freedom. They are punishing themselves for being tired, for being human, for having a body that needs things they were taught to despise. The cruelest part of the rebel's wound is this. They think they are strong. They think refusing sleep is power. They think the body is something to overcome. But what if the opposite is true? What if the most radical, rebellious, revolutionary thing you could do is rest? What if going to sleep before midnight is not giving up, but opting out of the war against your own body, the war you inherited from a house that told you your needs did not matter? What if sleep is not surrender, but refusing to carry that story one more night? The shadow of the rebel is this. Your late nights are not a protest. They are a punishment, and the person serving the sentence is you. The grief underneath the rebel's defiance is real. It is the grief of a child who was never once told, it is okay to stop. You do not have to earn rest. You are allowed to be tired. You are allowed to be human. No one said that, and the child grew up, and they are still waiting for permission they were never given. Here is the thing about permission. After a certain age, no one is going to give it to you. You have to give it to yourself. And giving yourself permission to rest, when your whole identity is built on not needing it, that is the bravest thing a rebel can do. 4 types, 4 wounds, for completely different stories. But if you look closely, underneath all of them, there's only one thing they are all running from. Not sleep, not the night, not even their past. Stillness. The wanderer runs from stillness by moving. The processor runs from stillness by thinking. The unseen runs from stillness by hiding. The rebel runs from stillness by fighting. And stillness, the thing all 4 of them avoid, is the exact thing all 4 of them need. Jung said the shadow is not your enemy. It is a part of yourself you disconnected from because you were taught, in ways both obvious and subtle, that it was too dangerous, too much, too inconvenient to carry. And the shadow speaks in the quiet. It speaks in the 5 seconds between putting down your phone and falling asleep. It speaks in the pause you do not let yourself take. It speaks in the ache you feel at 2 a.m. that is not tiredness and not boredom and not loneliness, but something older and deeper and without a name. That thing is asking you to stop, not to fix anything, not to solve anything, just to be still long enough to hear it. Most people never do. They scroll, they think, they hide, they fight, they stay up until exhaustion makes the choice for them, and then they wake up and do it again. And the wound does not heal. It just gets more practice. So what you do with all of this, you do not fix it tonight. That is not how this works. This is not a productivity problem with a productivity solution. This is not a sleep hygiene issue you solve by putting your phone across the room. This is a relationship. The relationship you have with yourself when no one is watching. And broken relationships do not heal in a night. They heal in small moments, chosen over and over again. Here is the only thing I am asking you to do. Tonight, when this video ends, Do not immediately pick up your phone. Do not open a new tab. Do not find something to fill the next 10 minutes. Just sit 1 minute. That is all. Not meditation. Not breathing exercises. Not a technique or a practice or a routine. Just sitting with yourself in the quiet. No agenda. No goal. No performance. And let whatever comes, come. If thoughts arrive, let them. Do not chase them. If feelings surface, let them. Do not explain them. If fear shows up, do not fight it. Just 1 minute. That minute will feel like an hour. It will feel like the most uncomfortable 60 seconds of your entire day. Because it is not a relaxation exercise. It is a conversation you have been postponing for years. And the person waiting on the other side of that conversation is not your worst self. It is not your shame or your failure or your regret. It is a part of you that stayed up late because it had nowhere else to go. The wanderer who just wanted to know they were enough without the doing. The processor who just wanted to feel safe enough to stop thinking. The unseen who just wanted someone to finally look and say, I see you. The rebel who just wanted to be told, you are allowed to rest. That part of you has been awake at 2 a.m. every night, not to ruin your sleep, but because it is waiting for you to finally get quiet enough to hear it. The night will always be here. It will always welcome you. It is patient. But the night is not where your life is happening. Your life is happening in the morning, in the afternoon, in the middle of the day when you feel most lost. And you deserve to be present for all of it, not just the hours no one is watching. You deserve to feel real at noon. You deserve to feel seen at 5 in the evening. You deserve to exist in every hour, not just the ones the world forgot to claim. And that starts with 1 minute. One decision to stop running from the quiet. One moment of sitting with the thing you have been circling for years. Which type are you? Not for the comments. Not for the algorithm. Say it to yourself. Out loud if you can. Because naming the wound is the moment it loses its grip. And that is not the end of the work. It is the beginning of something you've been owed for a very long time. You already took one step tonight. You stayed.